Good morning, it is Thursday the 2nd of July. I'm Maeve McMahon and this is Europe Today, your daily update of European news and analysis, live here on Euronews. Coming up, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky had to cut short his visit to Dublin, marking Ireland's 6-month presidency of the Council of the EU, due to a large-scale attack on Kyiv last night that killed 10 and injured over 56. To mark the occasion today in Ireland, all EU commissioners will be travelling to the south to Cork, including President Ursula von der Leyen. We'll have an update from our political reporter. Meanwhile, in Brussels, the EU's €2 trillion long-term kitty is up for debate today at Brussels' much-anticipated budget conference. After net contributor Germany threw a spanner in the works this week by calling the current proposal impossible, we'll hear the views from Bulgaria's Deputy Prime Minister, whose country has just adopted the euro. And it's official, Canada will take part in next year's Eurovision Song Contest for the very first time in 2027. It's the first new country to join since Australia in 2015. But first, EU finance aficionados will debate the bloc's long-term budget in Brussels this Thursday at the annual EU Budget Conference Bonanza. But the fight for cash has just started, with member states split in two camps over whether to meet the Commission's €2 trillion pitch or to raise it back. For more, I'm joined here on set by our correspondent, Angela Scudens. Good morning. Many are probably just thinking, just another conference in Brussels. Why does today's meeting actually matter?
Good morning, Maeve. So it certainly matters in the wider context of the fight just getting started when it comes to this €2 trillion pitch from the European Commission for that 7-year budget. Now, the EU executive proposed this in June last year. They want to prioritise competitiveness and defence while cutting back certainly on agricultural and regional programs. Now, the Commission wants this to be signed, sealed and delivered by December this year, as there are some really consequential elections scheduled for next year. We're talking about Poland as well as France. But the heat is on. It's now up to the heads of state to try and find a compromise before it's ratified in the European Parliament.
But as you can see, it's already getting heated. How will this fight unfold, Angela?
Yeah, so we're already seeing debate ratchet up between two predominant camps. The first is the Friends of Cohesion. They want a lot of spending in agricultural programs as well as those regional programs. They also don't want their capitals inundated with angry farmers or government buildings pelted by potatoes, as we've seen over the last few years. On the other side of this, we've got the Frugals. Now, these are the countries in Europe's north. They pitch a lot more to the budget than what they receive. Think the Netherlands as well as Germany. And as you rightly pointed out at the top of the programme, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz is very against what the Commission has proposed. He wants at least €400 raised from this. He's claimed that it is unaffordable. Now, the President of the Bundesrat, that's the German Senate, was in Brussels this week to discuss the long-term budget in the European Parliament. I spoke with him. His name is Andreas Bovenschulte, and I started by asking him whether a compromise can be found between what Brussels wants and what Berlin needs.
I think in the end you always reach a compromise after long negotiations. What I say from the perspective of the German Länder, we need a budget of the European Union that has a size with that the European Union can work. So we need enough money to fulfill all the tasks of the European Union, especially in difficult times as we have them today. We need a European Union that is up to the tasks it has to fulfill. So I think it should be able to reach a compromise. On the other hand, I can understand the federal government. It will really have difficult time to balance the own budget. So there's no real surplus money at the moment. So it will be difficult negotiations, but in the end, as always, there will be a compromise.
And just on the timeline, Merz wants this done, the deal to be struck this year. Is that realistic?
Well, I hope so, but I'm not really sure because there are only a couple of months left in this year, and I'm not really sure whether that is really a realistic timeline. But I think what the Chancellor wants to say is we have to hurry up, and I think that's a good plan. But if we don't manage to be in time, we should give ourselves a bit more time. It's better than to have no budget at all.
Andreas Bovenschulte there speaking to our Angela Skujins. And listening to that statement with me here in the studio is the Deputy Prime Minister of Bulgaria, Tanas Pekanov, who's in Brussels today for those very budget talks. Welcome to Brussels and welcome to Europe today. First question about that long-term budget. Is a compromise feasible?
Good morning and thank you for the invitation. We are at a crucial point for Europe. We have to decide the budget that will also decide our future. And we have to address the issues at hand. We are in a very tense geopolitical situation, changing circumstances, changing technologies. So Europe has to do more, has to do better on competitiveness, but it also has to retain its traditional policies. Cohesion policy for us is a traditional, important and very beneficial EU policy. And for Bulgaria, as well as the member states which are part of our group of countries, friends of cohesion, it is important that no further cuts are done to cohesion policy.
But that's where it's going to get tricky. We've already heard the German Chancellor, he wants to cut 400 billion euros from the budget, calling the current proposal impossible. And CAP and cohesion funds, they feel like something of the past. The future is all about defence.
We hear these concerns by our partners, of course, but let me say clearly, cohesion policy is not a gift from some member states to others. It is an investment in a functioning single market. It makes the infrastructure that then enables firms across Europe to extend, to get new markets, to get new consumers. It also creates new opportunities for European industries. In Bulgaria, many of the tenders for very important projects for goods and services, high-quality projects, have enabled also European industries to deliver these projects. So Bulgarian citizens receive the extension of the subway, one of the most popular projects, European-funded projects in Bulgaria, delivered also by a lot of European companies.
But Bulgaria, of course, is a small country. You receive more as well from the kitty than you contribute. So is your voice even heard in a debate like this?
We believe that how we organized in the Friends of Cohesion will make it feasible that we make our voice very clear and loud in this discussion. It is an important discussion because it will enable either Europe to thrive or it will lead us to a situation where maybe we are already at, with a competitiveness lag towards some of the other member states. And the two goals, competitiveness and cohesion, they don't go against each other. You have to have excellence in Europe. This is what we are going to talk about today, also at the budget conference. But this excellence cannot be focused in one or two places. It has to be equally distributed across Europe.
And this budget battle could take months. It could go into next year. Will they find a deal by the end of this year, though, ahead of the next year with all those elections taking place?
It will take months. It will be hard negotiations. There is no doubt about it. Of course, it is better to reach a solution fast. We would like also to start planning how all these funds will be used then next year. So it will be beneficial for everybody if we find a solution this year.
And Bulgarians joined the Eurozone back in January. Reluctantly, I remember the protests. How's the economy doing now?
In the longer term, the euro will bring benefits to Bulgaria, strengthened creditworthiness and strengthened credit ratings, more trust in our country on financial markets. In the short run, however, there have been some, I would say, pressures on the inflation side. Unfortunately, with the start of the war in Iran, this also contributed. One could say that some firms coordinated and increased their prices. This is something we are worried about. Inflation in April and May was double the euro area average, which is very concerning and concerning for citizens. So on that, we have taken first steps once we stepped into office in May to strengthen the regulators, to see if there were some malpractices on side of some firms in some sectors, because we don't want the euro adoption to weaken our price competitiveness. We see that, for example, in some sectors, these price increases, of course, then they can transmit to lower demand. So on this, there are some concerns. The deficit has also increased. There have been some capital expenditures that have been delayed in recent years. They have to be done this year. Not so that we address this issue, we are also taking steps to further implement and finalize the recovery plan. This is my portfolio, the Bulgarian National Recovery and Resilience Plan, something that was lagging because of the political instability. We managed to unlock the fourth payment after a visit that we had with President von der Leyen and delivering on the important rule of law milestones that were expected for Bulgaria for many years.
Okay, Deputy Prime Minister, thank you so much for joining us here this morning on Europe Today. Now, Ireland has officially taken over the rotating presidency of the Council of the EU in a ceremony at Dublin Castle that included a special guest, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. Our political reporter, Jorge Lebrarero, is in Dublin and sent us this report.
Accession dominated the first day of the Irish presidency of the EU Council. Volodymyr Zelensky himself flew to Dublin to attend the opening ceremony and make the case for his country's application. We remember that last month, Ukraine and Moldova finally opened the first cluster of negotiations after a very long wait. Now Zelensky says he wants to open the 5 remaining clusters as soon as possible. But there are 2 obstacles in his way. First, Hungary. Prime Minister Peter Magyar is raising fresh concerns about Ukraine's accession and the pace of negotiations, so as a result, things are already slowing down in Brussels. Then we have Poland. Zelensky is currently embroiled in a bitter dispute with Poland over his decision to name a military unit after the Ukrainian insurgent army. Poland says his decision is so controversial that it could lead to the blockage of Ukraine's accession. Can Zelensky handle 2 vetoes at the same time? This was my question to him during the press conference. Take a listen at his rather conciliatory response.
Even with some difficulties with Orban government, we did everything. So I hope that Peter Magyar will support, and I hope that also Poland government will support. I think it's important when we all have rules, it's just, political emotions. We are neighbors, and I'm sure, of course, we had difficulties in our history, but mostly countries in Europe had difficulties in the past. But we live now. Now we have one aggressor, and now we have unanimity, and we are defending EU, and we have to think about security for our people for the future.
Ukraine's President Zelensky there answering a question to our Jorge Lebrero in Dublin. But moving on, with humanitarian needs in Venezuela skyrocketing since the earthquake last week, the European Union has sent €5 million in aid. For more on the situation on the ground, our Lauren Walker spoke to João Almeida da Silva from the EU's Emergency Response Coordination Centre. He's stationed at an operations base in La Guardia Stadium in the city of Maputo, the hardest hit area.
We are progressing, and unfortunately, the time limit is and the clock is ticking in order as related to the retrieval and of still possible survivals. Still, there are teams working, so there is still hope. But unfortunately, we are now entering the second stage more of this operation. So the teams will start to demobilize probably towards the end of the week, and as from tomorrow and after tomorrow. Then we will enter into the second stage, so some more health and medical and in-kind assistance and humanitarian aid.
What has your work there been like so far? Can you tell us a bit more about what you've been doing there?
So our work is to coordinate, to facilitate, and to work with local authorities in order to speed up as much as possible that these teams can go into the terrain and work. We are here also to coordinate what is the incoming also assistance and all the humanitarian aid that is about to come. We had already one flight of relief fuel that landed here on Monday, coming from Copenhagen with almost 50 tons of assistance. And this will be our work now for the next days as we demobilize the teams from search and rescue and move into more the health and in-kind assistance provision. Venezuela.
Now, reports are coming from the ground in Venezuela, with some people suggesting that a lot of the help is coming from international aid like you're providing and from citizens, and that the state and the army are very much absent in these operations. Does this correspond with what you're seeing on the ground?
Well, it's difficult to enter. We know all the political situation here in Venezuela, but this is what we have here. It's with the army that we have to work. The other ones in control of the airport, of the port, so all our strategic points in terms of logistics to bring assistance in.
The EU has pledged €5 million in support. However, there are preliminary reports that suggest that actually the damage that has done, it could cost up to $11 billion. Would you say that the support that is being given now, this financial aid, is a drop in the ocean when you see the damage that these earthquakes have done?
I would like my comments on this for my colleagues from the humanitarian side, as we are here representing civil protection, so more on the response side. But definitely what we see is that there's going to be a huge need to support Venezuela. The figures speak for themselves in terms of deceased people, but also especially of the disappeared people or missing people still. So what we see is that there is in the loom massive health crisis that will unfold in the coming days or weeks. Also because the weather is extremely hot, extremely humid. So we suspect now that health will be the critical issue for the next weeks to come.
Now, moving on, according to fresh data from the Eurobarometer, Europeans are increasingly viewing the European Union as a source of stability, despite growing anxiety about the state of the world. But with inflation, unpredictable world events, and of course the cost of living crisis, pessimism is rife. Our Jakob Janis reports.
A spectre is again haunting Europe, but this time that spectre is anxiety. According to the newly released Eurobarometer, which surveyed over 26,000 respondents this spring, inflation and the cost of living have jumped to become again the top priority, but this time for almost half of EU citizens. But hey, whether you live in Lisbon or Budapest, your reporter is quite sure you've noticed that. But the numbers also reveal other truths, so let's break them down together. The EU experiences now a quiet crisis of confidence. Nearly a third of all Europeans now expect their personal standard of living to deteriorate over the next 5 years. And that pessimism reveals a stark generational divide. While almost 1 in 5 of young people brace for tougher times, that economic anxiety climbs to 1 in 3 among those aged 55 and over. And Western European heavyweights are leading the charts. In France, 44% of citizens expect a decline. Germany and Austria are equally gloomy, with 38% of their citizens bracing for a drop in their standard of living. But if we zoom out to Central Eastern Europe, the outlook remains remarkably resilient. In Poland and Hungary, fewer than 1 in 10 people expect their situation to worsen. And while life gets tougher, faith in Brussels goes down as well. 1/3 of Bulgarians, Greeks and Austrians, together with 28% of French and Italian respondents, now declare their nations have not benefited from EU membership. But here goes the surprise. Despite the economic gloom, optimism for the future of the EU stands at 59%, which is much higher than the outlook for the wider world, or even citizens' own countries. And let me leave you with something positive. 3 out of 4 still agree that their nation has benefited from the bloc, and view the EU as a vital place of stability in a troubled world. And all of that leaves the continent suspended states, uncertainty and hope. So let's hope that this uncertainty will be over soon.
And now it's time for something a little bit lighter, our brief World Cup update. The US team will join its other 2 co-hosts in the round of 16 after their win over Bosnia-Herzegovina. England and Belgium also through. The 3 Lions won a tight match against the Democratic Republic of Congo, 2-1, and Belgium's win against Senegal was even tighter after coming back from 2 goals down. They went into extra time and scored a last-minute penalty. And tonight, of course, we've 2 European duels. Spain will take on Austria and Portugal will play Croatia and Switzerland then against Algeria. Enjoy the games. But that brings this edition of Europe Today to an end. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, have a great day and I'll see you soon here on Euronews.